What's up, guys? It's Noah here from the Digi Bros. Today, we're going to be having our very first podcast episode here on the channel. And today, we're going to be discussing the One Piece card game. I got the homie Kane G with me today. What up, Kane?
What's up, everybody? I'm just chilling, man. It's a nice day today. You know what I mean?
It's a nice day today. We're playing some Discord webcam One Piece earlier, and you're one of the people who I play with the most, especially over like Discord. Going back to Digimon days, we always played a ton. So
Yeah, and that's one thing I like about this game too. Like in comparison to Digimon, it's just like there's just so much to play and practice, and it's just a blast. It's a blast.
I've been having an absolutely great time playing the One Piece card game. I mean, it's no secret, you can see from the content I have on the YouTube channel. I've been making a ton of One Piece videos in comparison to the Digimon videos. I still love Digimon. I was playing some the other day, but it's just One Piece is so refreshing. It's so new. It's just Digimon's got to a point where it's like, all right, this game isn't the same.
Yep. All right. I honestly thought about jumping back into Digimon, and I love it, but it's just I think everyone who plays Digimon understands we're at a low point right now. Hopefully, there's a resurgence, but I definitely do enjoy One Piece right now. It's definitely a breath of fresh air. So.
Right. I completely agree. And also not being able to go to Digimon Nationals, it's kind of the same time last year. I was like practicing a ton, and because it was over like Discord, but now it's all the way in California. I unfortunately not gonna be able to make it. I would love to go, but so not playing. Really being stuck in the same format really since like July of last year, which is insane. But
right.
Like I said, One Piece has been a great fresh of breath air. We were in the super pre-release. We were in that Star Deck format, as a lot of people have called it. We were in that one for a long time. I know a bunch of players kind of because the Star Decks, the super pre-release came out in September, but we didn't get the full release until December. So that's about 3-4 months there that we were playing with the Star Decks a ton.
Right.
But now, from December to now, we're basically at the end of January. And so the format with the introduction, the first set, promo packs, we even got the tournament promos alongside the Star Decks. The format's really come to its own. And so I just wanted to talk about this format versus like really our first one, the Star Deck format. We know, like, really in the Star Deck format, Green Eustace Kid was, the quote unquote best deck of the format. Really just having a leader that can attack twice, and Bonnie was a really good searcher. They had really strong cards like the 7-drop Eustace Kid and the 6-drop or is it 5-drop Basil Hawkins.
Right.
Go ahead. Okay, I was just saying that Green had a bunch of really strong cards, and like I feel like a bunch of the other starter decks, when it was just starter deck format, was just really trying to keep up with Kid. But now that we have like the first set, and we have all these different decks to choose from, like each color has multiple viable decks. Whether you're red playing Zoro or Luffy, green, really just playing Kid still because he is the best leader, being able to attack twice, but. Odin is still, got a very decent deck built around him, being able to restand your Dawn on multiple characters on when attacking. Blue has Dofi and Crocodile, and also has the blue-purple Crocodile that's been seeing a decent amount of success. Same with the blue-purple Kaido. It doesn't see as much play as, purple Kaido. And then you got the absolutely mad lads that want to play King. I don't know what's wrong with them, but there's the mad lads that want to play King. Also, Red Green Trafalgar Law. There's a ton of decks within the current format.
And there's like that's 12 leaders pretty much all together, and it adds so much variety. I think to kind of touch base on your starter deck format, like it really was just Green, but I think it really laid the foundation for the next, OP01, where hey, these starter deck leaders are very strong. And I'm starting to see a resurgence of the Monkey D. Luffy leader.
Same.
Like it definitely didn't. After the starter deck format, I think a lot of people were just kind of tired of it and didn't play it because why play it when you get destroyed by Kid and everything else? But right now,
on that comment on that destroyed by Kid, I will say in my super pre-release, I went 3-0 against Kid, three kids in a row, and I got the super pre-release trophy. And that being said, Red Best Egg baby.
Yeah, let's go. and honestly, like to kind of blend them back together. Like red best deck, like Zoro right now is just seeing tremendous amount of play. It's kind of vice versa now, where in starter deck it was Luffy, everybody played it, and then it kind of died away. OP01, Zoro, everybody played it, and it's kind of dying away because people rather play Luffy, and they realize how good it is.
Right.
And I think you mentioned the blue purple crocodile.
Right.
We're not seeing
it. I know.
Yeah,
I know. Like a month or so ago, the one decent sized PPG event, I think it had like 50 players,
yep,
and it
yep.
took first place. And especially at like one of my locals, I've definitely seen more players playing blue purple crocodile as of late.
Yeah, and it's good. Like there's a couple guys at my locals that play it like almost every week, and it's just very solid. It's annoying. It's almost obnoxious to deal with.
Right.
It's just every event is live almost every time. So.
Right. Kind of. Not necessarily reminds me of like security control from Digimon, but it still has that like similar kind of like playstyle where it's like, oh, you're different than the other decks. You know, you're very event heavy, where most decks, you know, they'll play max 10, usually less than that.
Yeah, and but again, kind of like again to the comparison of Digimon a little bit, or security control in general, it definitely does add a nice steady breath of fresh air, because it is different, and like you said, oh, you notice it's different,
right?
And when you're playing against it, it's everything you're thinking about the game. You have to like completely almost forget, because it does come down to how many events they're going to rock. Like they have a limited amount because we're only in the first set right now, but it is starter deck plus the first set. Somebody can throw one curveball at you and it just throws off the whole game.
Right. And so like maybe you got like two characters on the field and you're swinging with your leader into their leader and they drop like an overheat on you, bouncing back one of your characters that you're going to swing with. Stuff like that. And so I would like to go back and talk about Zoro for a bit. I think one of the reasons Zoro is so represented, and this is as a Zoro player, as a red player myself, it's honestly a very easy deck to play.
Yeah.
You just, a lot of your characters have rush, you turn the card sideways, and like there's really not a ton of thinking involved. Some decks like Law and Doflamingo where they take like setup, like especially with like Doflamingo where you have to stack your deck accordingly. You know, you're like, I'm going to draw this, play this, draw this, play this, and like, oh, what if my opponent does something differently? And then I now have to, instead of being able to use the effect of the Doflamingo, I now have to play like a different card from my hand to try to answer whatever they just did, opposed to using the effect. And same with the Law, it has like a ton of setup because you have to hit that 5 character max to be able to utilize the effect of them. So they have like a ton of like searchers like Nami trying to search for other like cheap pieces to help put characters on the board. And I feel like just from what I've observed, because I've seen like especially those two decks, Doflamingo and Trafalgar Law, players that come from other card games tend to like those decks more. Like one of our locals, there's these back from whenever I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Ton, there's these two players that, you know, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! With for the past 10 plus years. And those are the two decks they're playing, is like Law and Doflamingo. And I understand that because they're very much play closer to other card games than they do like One Piece. You know, like I said, Zoro is very simplistic. Throw a Dawn on him, makes all your characters bigger, turn your card sideways, repeat. Where both Doflamingo and Law, they take a little more thought. You know, you got to do a little more. You have longer turns because you're doing more stuff within it. That being said, red best deck, baby. And also, you can look at the prices of the leaders. Like the alt art Zoro leader is pushing like 200, like what, 30, almost $40. Yeah, it's gone insane, and it's just showing you how good of a deck it is just from the price of the leader alone.
And we compare, like, if you want to pull into the equation Japan's meta, right? Like around OP01, it was not Zoro. It was a lot more control decks, a lot more balanced. In the West here, like, or in the US, it's Zoro because, like you said, you just don't think about it. It's fast, it's tempo, it's in your face, and by the time it hits late game, you just need to get your 5 rush Luffys that are unblockable and just swing for the hills. You know what I mean? Like it's just
like you have your rush Zoros, you have your rush Luffys, you got your Diable Zombies on your stuff that can't be blocked, and it's very high tempo, very fast paced deck. It's definitely one of those like you need to beat it before it beats you, and a lot of players, especially on my both my locals I attend, because we were talking about this earlier, how you were playing against like the Zoro player at your locals. I'm
Right.
the Zoro player at my locals. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're very good with red.
Yep.
You know what you're doing, stuff like that. And where
Yeah.
they've like, adapted, they've learned. Because the biggest problem red does have is it runs out of hand very quickly. And so just being able to learn to like control the board status, attacking over characters, not really swinging into leader because that just adds more cards to the hand, and just
Yep.
really drawing out the game. And that's what red, especially Zora, does not want. Like you want the game to be on your pace. You want it to be very fast. You want to be in their face the whole time. But
Yeah.
if they like lay back a little bit, avoid attacking your leader, once you get relatively low in like hand size, especially if it's kind of early onto the game, before you hit that max 10 Don, like let's say you're chilling at like that 6 to 8 range somewhere in there, and you're low on hand size and red, it's not gonna be the best time for you. That being said, there are a ton of characters that have rush, so a top deck Luffy, top deck Zoro, really good, helps apply extra pressure.
Yeah,
But
and one thing I want to note on that is like you're talking about the rush characters. There is Sanji, but there's a lot of times where like you can just drop Sanji and then use him for the next turn and not commit the Dawn.
right,
But if you do that, great, and if you don't, you still got a 2-drop rush character that you can do Hanbei on, and so it's just that's already that's 3 times 4, that's 12. 12 rush characters right
right.
there if you max them out.
There's like you said, Sanji. There's Zoro, and there's the 5-drop Luffy. There's
Yep, and
also
Starter.
the 6-drop Luffy. That's the big Sanji, and
Oh
the
yeah,
Shanks. Which early on I was playing both of those, but like as like time progressed, I'm like, yeah, I don't really care for these bigger characters too much.
yeah,
I just need like small cheap things that can attack. They don't have counter power, so just even with like my own like playstyle with the deck, at the very beginning of the format, I was like, okay, I want these bigger rush characters. I can utilize them to attack over some of these other things. But like now, in my current version of Red Zoro, it's really kind of got some lot more like control aspects of it.
right,
Really trying to utilize that Robin effect. I am even playing 4 of the promo Beppos as well. Not only
yep,
does he have the same effect as Robin, but he has also a 2K counter. And
right.
the promo Trafalgar Law that on play does the same thing as the Otama, where it does minus 2,000. So you can hit things with both the Beppo and the Robin, and you can also jet pistol things that were
Yep.
previously out of jet pistol range. Where that's a cool thing with the Law. He's does the minus 2K and he puts a 5K body on board.
No,
And where the Otama, before I would do the same thing, but she was one of my 2K
right,
counters. So I was losing a 2K counter out of hand, and she's got 0
right.
base power. So once she hit the field, she was there.
Well, it's nice too because you can always attack her like with 1,000 against like bait or not, well, Bonnies or whatever. But
That
real quick, I'm curious. Like, if you want to touch base on that, we can. But I'm curious. Like, since you're red best deck, you're the red player.
right,
Before we kind of switch off this topic, in comparison to the starter deck Luffy, not just starter deck in general, but the leader.
right.
Where do they differentiate? And like, as we start to see this resurgence of starter deck Luffy, is one better than the other?
They both have their pros and cons because the owner of one of the shops I go to, he's also a big Red Zora fan,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like both leaders. I think Luffy really good, and I think Zoro is also really good. But they
Yeah.
kind of like promote different kind of play styles. Where
In
Zoro,
what way? In
okay,
what way?
where Zoro really the most intimidating thing about the Zoro deck is like the field itself,
Right.
because your 1-drop Searcher Namis turn 2 can be swinging. So you usually utilize a bunch of like the smaller characters, especially looking into the set 2 format, which we'll touch about future formats in a bit. But they really utilize a bunch of these smaller characters that you're just buffing up with the Zoro. So really, Zoro is just you want to have a big field, a bunch of small guys that you're making bigger. Ideally, if you can swing for 6K, so they have to either waste a 2K counter or two cards out of hand, that's fine. Where, like I said, Zoro is really like have big field, give everything plus 1K swing. Where the star deck Luffy, that's really when you utilize more cards like the Sanji, because a lot of the Zoro decks have kind of cut Sanji. He doesn't have
Yeah.
counter in hand, and he's basically a 4-cost rush, where the Zoro is just 3-cost rush, because you
Right.
do have to use the 2 Dons to give him the rush. Where like the Star Deck Luffy, you can just use the effect of him to use one of the Dons you use for the Sanji to play. And same with the Star Deck Nami. Usually you want to open like Star Deck Nami within the Star Deck Luffy leader deck. So that way on your second turn, if you do have the Sanjis, you can play them. And so it's like those two Dons that you use for the Sanji were free. Because you can use it effective with the leader and the Nami. And same with the promo Luffy. That's basically the big Sanji, the 6-drop one that has Don X2 Rush. You utilize like things that can gain effects right then and there with the additional Don. Because I mentioned like Robin earlier, and there's a couple other cards like I've seen some playing Frankie again within Zoro, where they're when attacking effects and they don't have rush. Where the Luffy deck, like I said, it's really the Sanji and the big Luffy that gain the most benefit from the ability of the Luffy. And you also, I don't know, one of the I don't want to say problems with the Star Deck Luffy is because you have to utilize Tap Don to get the most, I don't want to say.
Value.
Value. That's exactly what I was looking for. Get the most value for the effect. But a lot of times you don't want to, especially with like traps and like life. Because a lot of times you have to like play something and then use his effect to either equip the first at Dawn to himself or to one of your other characters. And then let's say you like swing into their life and it's like a who's who, or it's a Jinbei. Or just one of these like trap cards, that's in the life, where it's either going to remove the card you just played, or return it to the hand, return it to the bottom of the deck. So that's one of the things where it is a bit like more scarier with the Luffy deck, because you do have to commit stuff to the field before you attack to get the most value out of his effect. Where the Zoro, you can just throw one on him and swing, and then you can play stuff like afterward, because you don't have to really worry about utilizing the rest of Dawn for his effect.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's that. You think for answering it, because that's one thing. Like again, with the resurgence of these Luffys, I'm just very curious if one is better. But again, like you said, they're a different tempo. I feel like a lot of people are starting to lean towards the control with the Luffy.
Right.
But I mean, you can't write off Zoro when you sit across it.
Yeah, like Zoro's like you're like, okay, this deck's fast. They're attacking with their searcher. Why are they attacking with the searcher? I don't like this. Because we played plenty. Turn 1 I'll drop Nami. Turn 2 back me. I have 3 done. Throw 1 onto the Zoro and the other 2 onto the Nami. I'm just swinging a 5K with a Nami. You're like, God damn, why are you attacking?
And to kind of transition into the like meta, right? Like when we practice, like I play Kaido. I'm a Kaido player. I love Kaido. Purple's kind of what I love. And especially in like comparing to Digimon, like that was kind of the same style I really liked. Just trashing, security and swinging big and doing all that. Kaido does that, and I feel like there is enough like variety, right, in all the other colors, and I feel like everybody has its weakness, right, and not one deck is stronger than the other. We talk about decks that are topping right now. Like let's name up, because we have definitely Kaido's topping, right?
Kaido, Zoro, Kid, Law. I feel like those are like the big four. Doflamingo's a very good deck. Crocodile, Blue Purple is still a really good deck. Hell, even Blue Crocodile is still a very good. But I feel like those are the most represent those four, being the Zoro, the Law, the Kid, and the Kaido. And like I said, then you got the Mad Lads at table 500 playing King.
King and Uta.
Hey, listen, I'll play Uta.
Yeah, hey, I mean, and that's the thing. Like with these 12 leaders, Uta included, the 12 leaders, like you can't write any of them off. They all do something. Of course, like we talk about meta, there are the ones we just mentioned. Kid, Kaido, Law, Crocodile, and Zoro, right? Or not Crocodile, but Zoro. Crocodile kind of right behind that, blue and blue purple. Everything's good. Everything's has their decks, and I understand why everything's topping. Purple. Sorry, my dog's jumping on me. Purple. Purple wants to swing big. Zoro wants to swing fast. Law wants to control the board, and Kid Kid just does everything.
Kid just does everything. God,
Yeah, Kid just does
man,
everything.
I say this all the time. I hate green.
Yeah,
It's a very good deck, especially
yeah.
with a bunch of the cards they got out of OP01. Now they have two searchers. They now have both Bonnie and Momonosuke. They
Yep.
both have plenty of very good search targets. They especially like one of the things that really helps green right now. I'm looking over here on OnePieceCard.dev.
Yeah.
Their 2K counter ISO, and the on play you rest one, your opponent's characters cost a 4 or less. There is the cat, which they changed his name, the cat viper or the
Yeah.
Nekomamushi. That's another
Okiku.
one on play. Okiku. A bunch of these really strong characters that can rest your opponent's stuff. Where before they just had Straw Sword, which Straw Sword still a decent card, being able to suspend any of your opponent's characters. But just having, because that's a one and done. But like now, especially with like Okiku, that's a Donix one when attacking, and if you don't like get rid of it, then that's a every turn kind of thing.
Right.
See, there's a couple cards that I deem as being, I don't want to say too good, but they're like really good to the point where your opponent also knows they're very good. Okiku is one of those. Promo Law, the one that has double strike, the
right.
Nico Robin, the one that pops small things. There's a bunch of these that's like your opponent also knows they're very good, so they get rid of them immediately. So a lot of time it's hard to utilize their effects to the fullest. And whenever you can do that, you're in just such a huge position.
Yeah.
Like with the Okiku being able to attack, tap down small stuff, leader swing over it.
Right.
With the Robin being able to like swing, usually you use her to pop blockers and stuff.
Right. Can you tell me, because I think like with all the cards you just mentioned, right? Like
Right.
every color has one,
Right.
if not two in them, but they don't really have all three. And I think green is very unique in the sense it has Okiku. Does other colors have an Okiku in there?
Something that can rest your opponent's stuff?
Yeah, something that's a 5K and that can rest.
I don't
breath.
believe so. Green's really, that's like when they're big like characteristics, just being able to like rest the opponent's stuff. Where red has like rush and like making things bigger. Purple's got purple's got all kinds of stuff. Blue's really about returning your opponent's stuff to the hand and to the deck. Well, purple has rush. There's not rush, but ramp. There's a bunch of like cards that ramp like Onigashima and all kinds of stuff like that. Where Okiku, I'm thankful that girl doesn't have a counter because that card's broken if she did. But
I think low key Okiku might just be one of the like very, I don't want to say overpowered, but very strong cards.
It is a very strong card. But like I said, she does have that problem where you're like, okay, I understand that card is very good. Red, they'll try to jet pistol it. They'll try to get rid of it. Blue tries to return it to the hand, bomb the deck. Purple, throw out a who's who or whatever you gotta do, whether it be a king, either king, if you're at that point in the game with your ramp, just to be able to pop it, because you don't want her effect to like go off. Just being able to attacking the rest one. The fact that it can hit 5 or less is really big. It can hit like queens, it can hit insert other good card here that costs 5. I'm just thinking red card that costs 5, and I'm going to Luffy, and he's already suspended because he's got rush. But
well, I mean every card in blue, right? Almost every card in blue.
Yeah, because they're all like 4 cost. And
and if you're in the mirror, it's kind of everything again green almost.
Right. You can hit the law blocker and.
It's just a very solid card.
It is a very solid card. Law blocker is another one that sees play in both red green law and green kid. That's another very good card, just being able to bounce, being able to recycle like your Nekomamushis or like your searchers, whether it be your Bonnie or your Momonosuke. It's really good. Just being able to go Bonnie, search out the Trafalgar Law, play the Law, bounce the Bonnie, and then drop either like a Nekomamushi or like a beige or like a kid blocker or something like that. Not kid blocker, but a killer blocker. There we go.
Yeah, and like talking about the meta, like that's why we see green succeed, right? It just has a lot of tools. And I don't know, and that's the thing, like about the game too. You can say, and I've heard this a few times, it's like a math problem, right? It's all just numbers when you get to the late game. But I think there is enough you have to have enough skill to navigate
Right.
all of it, right? I mean, that's
There
why
is.
it doesn't win all the time, because other decks have the tools that can beat it. But it does. You do have to add a little bit of skill when it comes to what you can play, what to expect, and stuff like that.
And then speaking of green, they also have really strong cards such as the X Drake that on play you KO one of your opponent's rest of
Yeah.
characters with cost of 4 or less, and then they got the 8-drop useless Captain Kidd, which I
Yeah.
feel like at the very beginning of the format, a lot of players were like really freaking out about that card.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, he is a very strong card.
Yeah.
Don X1, opponent's turn while he's suspended, your opponent can only attack characters called useless Captain Kidd. Usually he'll have to just be himself up, and then on play or no activate main, they'll rest them to play like a blocker from hand. So it's like wow. So now I have to navigate the blocker, and I have to try attempt to attack over this 8K body. Where if they have counters in hand, it just a lot of times it's really really hard. But
well, and on top of that, like we kind of brushed over her, but Bonnie right. adds so much value to green. And when we're speaking of green, we also talk about Traffic, right?
Yeah,
red and green law. So that deck is very strong because it has access to two of the best colors, right? Red and green.
Right. And so Bonnie, she
Yep.
can even search out red cards. Like she can search the Rush Zoro. She can search out the Rush Luffy because they are also supernovas type cards. So it just expands the search pool, the card pool that she can search from.
Yeah, and it's and what's crazy about her is that she is one of the threat cards, right? We talk about Okiku and how strong she is and what she can do. Bonnie is almost as strong, maybe not in power, but in how much she can just add to your hand size. And I feel like hand size is very
hand size is everything.
Yeah, hand size is important in this game, and I feel like in other games it could not be, but in this one it is. It's very strong, and then Bonnie just has to be dealt with.
Right, and so that's where like Bonnie and similar with Momonosuke, he can search some good cards, but Bonnie just has such a bigger card pool, like we said, where they really have built-in blocker as well, where they're going to get a search and then they also tap themselves. So you can do it like every turn if it's not dealt with. So you really are getting a search and your opponent's like wasting an attack on it opposed to one of your other characters or one of your leaders, or they're wasting a card effect to kill it. Whether it be
searcher, blocker, counter, just everything. Yeah. One thing I want to add in here, because I totally forgot. I've been saying like 12 leaders. I forgot there's Red Green Luffy. So I played him for a little while. Red Green Luffy.
I played it for a little bit. He's cool. There's just being able to utilize like the promo Kaido and like I mentioned him earlier.
Wait, what about promo Kaido?
Not promo Kaido, I'm sorry. Promo Kid. Promo Kid. Just because you can restand them and have them like swing for a double strike. And then the Basil Hawkins. It's another card that you can restand with the Luffy as well.
Yeah. And those are great. Those are great cards in that deck.
Yeah. Where the red green law, you're really trying to get to that point where you can start juggling your own stuff with not just the law leader himself, but the law character. But like red green Luffy is like, hi. Did we mention we're red? We have aggro. We have aggro too. Red green Luffy is cool. I do like how they are kind of balancing out the dual color leaders from the beginning. I like how they went on to introduce dual colors, because for Digimon it took us the longest time to get like real dual color cards. Like we had some that were treated as other colors, and then we like even from like base set, set 1 in Digimon, we had the Omnimon that could evolve over 2 different colors. But from very beginning, they're like, here we're gonna have dual color leaders, but guess what? You're gonna start with less life, and I feel like that's a good drawback because they get access to a lot more blockers at that point. You'll get red green, for example. You get 8 1-drop blockers in the form of beige and chopper.
And it is a good drawback. I just right now I was thinking about arguing that it's not. I feel like mono colors are just too strong because they have that 1 extra life. But like you just said, we were talking about red and green, right? Like that's 2 very strong colors, and if you're not careful, they can easily wipe everything, even just that 1 life. That 1 life is just huge, and so it does ray them in not being like allowing them to have 4 life just means that they don't get to top all the time.
Right, and so like you mentioned hand size earlier with like
Right.
Bonnie and Nami. Those are like the two most used searchers within
Yep.
inside Trafalgar Law, and they're both one cost. Just being able to play them down, and you eventually get to the point where you have that 5 characters. Just being able to bounce your searchers to play something else is really really strong. Bounce your searcher to play down the Nekomamushi to suspend one of their characters, or bounce, let's say, the Nami to drop a Law, and the Law bounce a Bonnie, and then you play the Nami, you bounce
Yeah, there's a
previously,
lot
and
you
it's
can do.
just there's a lot of, and so at that point their hands just get huge.
Right.
One of the locals I played in the past couple weeks, I got second. I lost in finals to a Law, and his hand size was massive because he was just resolving Nami and Bonnie's like every single turn,
Yeah.
and it's
because when you don't get rid of them, it's the worst.
oh yeah,
it's
because
the
they,
worst.
especially like I said, if they like are very good at like returning them to the hand to play other stuff, and then the
Yeah.
following turn, like let's say you attacked everyone that characters, or you got rid of the Law blocker, and then they just play them again and they repeat. It's just
And I think that's one of the things, like when you talk about other colors and you talk about meta and you talk about like comparing it to Digimon or the next set, this game and all cards involved have this value standard.
right,
If you hit the standard, if you are allowed to get value off the card, it puts you in a very good position.
right.
And I feel like a lot of the games, the good games, the good decks, the fun matches, that's kind of their pivot point. Can every card get value? If it sees value, then that person could potentially be ahead in the game. You know what I mean? And green just has a lot of it.
Yeah, green is winnable. And so transitioning from red and green, coming on to blue,
Yes.
coming down to blue. So I did mention earlier, Dofi. Dofi does take a bunch of skill. Like I said, rearranging the top cards of your deck, whether it be with the Dofi character or the Perona, because like I said, it can be one. You have to remember that stuff because I know it can be like a lot. Like especially if you do that early on in your turn and you play other stuff,
Right.
and then it's your opponent's turn, and then you're like looking at your hand. Okay, do I want to counter with this? What did I stack? Because like there's a lot of times where you're like, okay, I know I stacked a starter deck Gecko Moria, so I'm just going to waste, let's say, this 2K
Mihawk counter.
Mihawk counter in my hand because I know next turn I'm going to draw and then I can swing, play off the Gecko Moria to get the counter back.
Yeah, and this is where I was going to segue exactly to piggyback off your point is everything in blue, to me, feels like everything has value.
Right.
Everything does something, whether it's that Gecko Moria with Mihawk counter, whether it's playing just a 1-drop Mihawk, not Mihawk, Law, Perona, everything is just, blue is one of those colors that is very consistent to me. It does take a little bit more skill because you have to memorize everything, but it's consistent. Right. It's got a lot of 4-drops. Everything with Daffy's effect, you just get to play things off top deck. And if you build your deck to a certain point, you could just do that effect blind. Right. You don't need to search anything.
And so like another like cool thing with like Dofi, not only is he like recruiting a character, let's say it's like the Gecko Moria, but you can also have cards like the Martial Teach, where it's also disruption built into it.
Yep.
And so they also serve as blockers as well, because like your opponent doesn't want you to have a bunch of characters on field, so then they're like attacking over them opposed to attacking into your leader, so you're taking less life. So it's naturally putting you ahead because Dofi's gonna be at 7K when he swings. 7K swing into a leader, that's asking for like minimum 3 cards out of hand to like guard against that. So
yeah, because he's real quick, because he's attached to
pay 1
when attacking, rest 1 and play the top card of your less if it's a 4 or less.
Yeah,
top card of your deck if it's 4 or less. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a 7 Warlords of the Sea specifically.
Oh, specifically 7 Warlords. Oh yeah, we learned that with your Jinbei.
Yeah, with the Jinbei, for some reason that damn Jinbei is not 7 Warlords for the Sea, but for the Treasure Cup upcoming, they have the second place mat, which is a 7 Warlords of the Sea. It says it on the mat. It has the 7 Warlords on the mat, and it has the same Jinbei on there, but he's not a 7 Warlords on the Sea in his card text. I hate it. Makes no sense. Bandai, make it make sense. I hate it so much. God,
that's so good. Oh goodness.
And
No,
so like
real quick, like in comparison to Doffy and Crocodile, and we don't have to stay on this too long, but Crocodile and Doffy, like, what's the huge like difference, right? Like, which one, like, quote unquote, like, kind of comparing it to the Zoro and Luffy, like, what's better, quote unquote, better, or where do they stand stronger than the other?
right. I don't know. We've been seeing a ton of representation from Dofi. I do like Crocodile, the leader itself, because he does have that built-in disruption, where Dofi kind of has to rely on like other cards, like I said, the teach, whether you're stacking it or you're going to draw into it to play something else. Um, I don't know. They do have very different playstyles. I'm gonna go into the blue purple crocodile as well because they're all that
Yeah,
blue leader. Hell, I guess we can mention blue purple Kaido, but blue purple Kaido is more of like a purple card than like a blue, where the blue purple crocodile you utilize like the blue events in, and so that way you can
yeah,
draw the additional cards. So, like I said, it's really what you want out of your leader more. If you want your leader to help establish your board, you go for Dofi. If you want your leader to have some additional control elements from it, you go for the crocodile starter deck. Or if you want to just play a ton of event cards in your deck, you go for the blue purple crocodile. And so it's really like player preference at that point. What do you want your leader to do? Once again, do you want to have them help establish a board? Do you want to have some built-in disruption control with the Star Deck Blue Crocodile being able to bounce things that are 5 or less? Or you want the additional draw power from the Blue Purple Crocodile? At the end of the day, it's player preference. They all utilize a bunch of the similar cards. A lot of it's going to be the 7 Warlords of the Sea themed because that's just Blue's color identity at the moment. A lot of them do work really well together. A lot of it being the Gecko Moore and being able to help recruit things out of your trash, whether it be counters you use, characters you lost, or blockers like your small Trafalgar Laws and stuff like that.
and one thing I do want to highlight here is both that the blue purple crocodile and the Starter Deck crocodile have access to is Ms. All Sunday.
Yeah, they do
She,
have the
yeah,
broke works stuff, and just her being an additional blocker for the deck and being able to help get the counter cards out of the graveyard is very strong.
yeah, very strong. And what's nice is that it's all events. So if you're doing blue purple, you can have Blast Breath, Thunder Bagaya,
Right.
etc. So,
And
very
so
strong.
Blue also got some really cool top end cards as well. Most notable is the Dracule Mihawk, being able to
Yep.
put the 7 cost or lower on the bottom of the deck. I really wish it was like higher, like an 8 or a 9 cost. I understand that'd be very, very strong. But
Yeah.
the Star Deck Doflamingo, he also hits the 7 cost character at the same
Yeah.
for the same effect, basically. Where if it's going to the bomb deck, you're never going to see it again. Where if it goes to hand, depending on what card you bounce, they might not play it again for the rest of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, if it was, let's for the sake of argument,
Like
if
if
it,
he could hit 8, so that way he could help deal with the green kid, the 8-drop kid.
yeah,
I feel like
does that make green less quote unquote stronger, and or does that make blue stronger, or like how what would that do? How
I
big
don't know
would
if
that
it would
be?
make it stronger, but it would definitely help within that matchup.
Yeah.
Because like right now, like if they have the 7-drop blocker kid, you can either spin that to the bottom deck or bounce it back to their hand, and now you have a big body on the board that you can use to like throw into the big kid.
Yeah.
Where if he could hit that one extra one, if he could hit that 8 or lower, he could then just get rid of the problem card immediately. Like I said, I'm trying to think of like other decks that have really strong 8 cost characters. I think it's just the Green Kid.
I mean,
Uh,
Uta, no, but no, Uta's got Shinx, but no, I think not even Kaido. We're starting to see at least I'm running it. Is I've seen some lists have it. Is the uh,
Purple
event
Kaido.
pack winner 8-drop Kaido end of turn set of dawn active.
Right.
Yeah, that would be another 8-drop that can be dealt with. I just don't know how. He's
Right.
not as scary as the
Right. Like
8-drop
he's
kid
I
is.
mean he's basically a vanilla that at the end of the turn you get extra Dawn. Which I've
Yeah.
seen that one utilized more in like blue purple Kaido than in like regular purple Kaido.
Oh, really?
But blue purple Kaido is just a ton of RAM because
Yeah.
he has Adonix when your turn. When one of your opponent's characters is KO'd, you get to add 1 Dawn card. So it's active. It being active is kind of huge. So
Yeah.
utilizes more cards like the Who's Who because I know some purple lists have been like kind of cutting it. Not sure why. I feel like Who's Who's are really. I understand it doesn't have counter, but just being able to like get rid of their like 3 cost characters, whether it be like a Zoro or an Okiku
Uh,
or these just the small
To,
searchers like the Bonnies and stuff like that.
well, it's because of curve.
Right.
I think like if you don't see Onigashima, playing who's really suck most of the time. And then when you want to play him, you need. I think that's being that player. Anytime I play who's who, I don't have Onigashima, and I play him kind of towards mid to late game. It sucks because then I put myself a Don behind, and I can't get ahead, and then I draw a 9-drop or a 10-drop Kaido. That if I had not done that -1 Don, that could have turned the game completely.
Right.
Versus that one
that's
turn.
with the blue purple Kaido. It kind of makes these Don minus effects just
Yep.
not even the minus because you get the Don back immediately. So like
Right.
the starter deck King, he's got the Don -1. Really, it's just you're just gonna get the on play effect for free because you do have the Kaido skill. Or the
Right.
OP01 Kaido, not Kaido, but the King. It's just gonna make it Don -1 and push to Don -2. And if you do have the Onigashima as well, it's you're really going like +1 off of it because you can use the Onigashima to recur the 1 back, and then you'll just gain an additional active 1 off the Kaido.
Yeah.
Really,
I've
strong.
been playing with a list. Me and this other person at Locals, Tip, we've been working on Blue Purple Kaido, and she found a list that I shouldn't say she found it. She made a list that she loves,
Right.
and I'm like right behind it. And I'm thinking I'm going to try that this week and give that a shot. And I think Blue Purple Kaido is very strong in compared to Kaido.
Right.
Kaido, I love playing Kaido. Me and you've
Oh
gone back and forth all day.
Listen. The classic when your opponent has it's 2 life left. Yep. And you throw the 7 on the Kaido, and you swing for 12, and they have to attempt to guard out of that. And if they don't, you trash the 7, throw the other 3 on the rush Kaido, it can be the big Kaido. It just needs to be something big.
Yep.
Usually it's the rush Kaido, but and you just swing for game. And I hate that combo. One of my friends who's been getting into the game, we've been playing for the past couple weeks. Because he picked up Kaido, and I told him that exact combo. I showed it to him, and God damn it, if every time we play he doesn't try to hit me with it, I'm like, stop it. Stop it. I taught you this not for you to use against me, for you to do with the other people.
It's strong. I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, and that trash effect is one of the effects that to me is like the strongest effect. Right. Everyone else it adds value to their decks. Kaido is the only one currently that could just get rid of life.
Right.
Just currently, we talk about yellow, and we'll get there when we get there. But maybe a different episode. I don't know. But
damn yellow, I hate it.
The damn yellow coming from Digimon, like we all have PTSD. yeah. But Kaido just adds a lot. It's got the 10-drop that clears board. It's got the 9-drop that has rush and delete a 6 or less, pop a 6 or less. Kings, all the kings, the 6 and the 7s. And then it has his leader effect. He just trashes life. So if you're far enough ahead, that effect is just huge. And especially like the combo you said, attach 7, swing 7, just spend 7 Dawn and then trash to spend 7 is just really strong.
All right, so I feel like that's a good segue into purple for us. Real quick, I just want to read the effect of the king leader for all you guys out there who aren't familiar. Your turn. If you have 10 Dawn cards on your field, all your opponent's characters have -1,000 power.
Yep.
That being said, we're just gonna move right along.
Yep. Next. No. Before we move along, you know me. Before we move along, I honestly think that's not a bad effect. But it is not the best or good because of everything else. But you're primarily focusing on ramping to get to 10 to even see the value, and again, bringing back value. That leader just doesn't have it compared to others.
Right, and so there's some. I was gonna say this is like an effect. You have to have 10 Dawn, so it's late game before you can even utilize it. And really, the really good leaders, you're utilizing their effects basically every turn. Going back to maybe not every turn, but like there's the starter deck Kaido. That's really a once per game scenario. You're not doing that every turn. And then same with the blue crocodile starter deck. His effect really, you could do it multiple times throughout the game, but that's really one you're trying to save for late game. Let's say they got like a annoying blocker on the field, or if they got like something, like a 5-drop rush Luffy. something you just don't want to be on the field, that they have to commit more Dawn to it the following turn, or you're just trying to go for game. Like I said, both the Kaido and the Crocodile, their skills are like you're trying to go for game. Kaido, you're trashing that life. Crocodile, you're bouncing that blocker to help you attempt to go for game. Where King's effect, really, it's one of those like ones that's like you said, doesn't give you value, and it's not really helping you go for game.
Right.
Where the others that you can use, multiple times throughout the game, were the ones that you really only use once. Once again, like the Kaido and the Crocodile. Because at the same, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say because a lot of Purple's effects are play cost, not deep. It's not power versus like Robin, right? Like minus anything that's 3,000 or less, it pops. So it's like the King power is cool, but like we just don't see the value because a lot of everything is just play cost. So
right, and like really with Purple, you're utilizing your on play effects to deal with your opponent's characters,
right.
whether it be either King, going back to Who's Who, or the 10 drop Kaido. You have a lot of cards that really just KO your opponent's characters by an effect, where the King is really trying to like lower it by DP so you can attack over it. It's kind of redundant when you have a bunch of cards that deal with their characters. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on King. For those King players out there, more power to you.
We believe in you.
We believe in you. Hopefully, you'll get past table 500.
yeah, hopefully. But yeah, so, the next one. Go ahead.
Okay, so I've been playing a decent amount of Dofi. I know it's not a red deck, but it's my fiance's deck, and when she's not playing it, I like to play around with it, or like a lot of times I'm like, because she's still relatively new to like card games. She played a little bit of Digimon with us, but she's a big fan of One Piece. We've been watching through it together, and so she really wanted to play One Piece. So I've been playing card games a long time, 10 plus years. Same with you, you've been playing for a long time. So there's like a lot of things that's just like as card game players, like we know, but it's hard for us to like especially teaching her like playing like card games. It's like some things like I know just from like knowledge of playing for a long time, like card value, when to block versus when to counter, not even stuff like that. It's just like small things like within the game, like to attack like the characters versus the leader. Just
how many counters have they been through? How many 2K counters?
Right. It's like looking in their trash, saying, like you said, how many 2K counters have they been through? Stuff like that. It's just inherent game knowledge I've learned from playing multiple card games over the past, like I said, 10 years. And so her being newer to it, like I said, I've been helping her like learn and trying to get better at playing Doflamingo. So a lot of times I'm also playing it, or I'm like helping her. So as someone who plays Doflamingo, I don't want to say a decent amount, but I've played it enough. You're trying to establish a big board, and so that segues beautifully into Purple Kaido, because I play against Purple arguably the most. My friend Troy, who I live with, my friend Calvin, you, players at locals. There's a lot of Purple that I play against. I fucking hate 10 drop Kaido with a goddamn passion. I hate this card. He's so good. Because Doflamingo, you'll have like 3, 4, hell, even 5 characters on field, and he just comes in and says, fuck them, and gets them all out of the way. Oh, I know that was like a lengthy explanation just to go in. I hate this card. He's so good. I hate him.
Yeah,
he's a dark hole. He destroys all other characters on the field. He's so good.
Yes, dark hole, and I think we all understand how strong dark hole is.
Yes,
if you're those Yu-Gi-Oh players.
For the Yu-Gi-Oh players, modern Yu-Gi-Oh players like how dark hole sucks. So we're not talking about modern dark hole. We're talking about dark hole back in the day when Yu-Gi-Oh was good. Damn it.
Oh yeah.
Just being able to come in and just like kill off everything, and like. There'll be times where I'm playing against Purple where I know they're gonna drop Kaido, because like they're, instead of like trying to like clear characters, they'll like swing like kings, or they'll swing like their blocker queen like into leader. And I'm like, that's a little sus. Why are you doing that? And it's just like pay 10. I'm like, God damn it, here comes Kaido, and then I gotta like clear the field, because like it can very easily like change the game. Because like I said, with Dofi, you'll have like a bunch of like characters on field. If you only got like 1, 2 not Dawn, but life left, and he just comes in and clears it up, and you got to start all over.
It is one of those cards where you have to be ahead to play it. Not even have to. It's better if you're ahead, right? As long as if you don't have 0 Dawn, you can activate his effect no problem.
Right.
But if you do, it's almost a dead card at that point. So there's that aspect of
I
it.
will say there have been plenty times where I played you and I played others where you either have them too early and you discard them off king, not king,
Right.
but queen, or like you have multiple of them in hand. But he's just one of those cards like once he can be dropped, because there's like sometimes it might put you in a losing position. Let's say you have like
Right.
multiple blockers up, like you got a Black Mario or Queens or a whatever this other guy's name is, Kuruzumi.
Yep.
Let's say you got like 3 or 4 of them on the field and you only got like 1 life left. You're not going to drop this Kaido to clear off your blockers just to kill off your opponent's stuff.
Well, it is nice if you're with that being said, you could just play him without activating effect.
Right.
But at that point, we talk about value, and it's
Right.
like, oh, would you if their
At
opponent's
that
board is
point,
wide,
at that point, it's just going
yeah,
to be like a 10 cost vanilla. Like
right,
you could utilize that Dawn into boosting up your leader or like playing for something else to either establish more board presence, board control, or just dealing damage.
right.
At a 10 cost 12k vanilla, I don't think it's worth it at that point. I feel like you can save it or just discard it off a queen at that point.
Right. Right.
But like Kaido's got a time and place where he is really good or he just gets discarded, because it might, like I said, it might be at a point where you're like, there's no point in this game. I can drop it. Like I have these blockers established. I got like 2-3 queens on field. I'd rather block with them, counter out of it, than just Kaido come in and kill my own stuff.
Yeah, and it is a card that adds tremendous value and power to purple.
And it's very scary. It's very like just because they get to 10 so fast.
Yes.
Like I said, my friend Troy, he plays blue purple Kaido, so he ramps it so fast. I'll be like at like 6 dawn, he's already got 10 dropping Kaidos. I'm like, can you chill, please?
Yeah.
And so from Kaido, they also got the brand new King. King is really good, being able to snipe the 3 cost and the 2 cost or lower characters. I often will get like this King and the other King mixed up because other one can hit 4 lower characters.
Yeah.
And so like this one come down, I'm thinking they're gonna pop one of my like 4 cost characters, and they're like, nah, this one is a 3 or 2. I'm like, whoa, thank goodness.
Yep.
Especially let's just say going back to playing Dofi, a lot of them, the blue characters are 4 cost, so this one can't snipe those where the old King can. But this is still a very good card.
Yeah, and I want to say like it's a card that sees a lot of value against red and green, because you're popping their 3 drops and their chopper or beige.
Right.
And so it's just very on curve.
And it can pop Zoros that attack, so you don't have to like waste an attack on your leader into the Zoro. It can pop the Robins, which Robin isn't as good against purple as it is like the other colors, because all other stuff is just bigger. Like their blockers, their queens, their 5 cost, their kings, their they all got 6,000-7,000 plus power. So I've learned in like the purple matchup a lot of times the Robin isn't as needed. Yeah, you can hit the Kuruzumi and the Black Marius, which is good, but like a lot of times they just got bigger stuff on the field.
Right. And what's nice about those blockers, they're counter too.
Right. Yeah, counters. Just having a blocker with a counter. Looking at Cheat Chopper.
Yeah. Chopper.
Yeah. So the queen out of OP01, the on-play Dynamite when it gains rush and then give minus 2,000 power to someone.
Yes.
I've seen decks at the start of the format we're playing it, but I feel like now a lot of purple decks I haven't seen played as much. As a purple player, what do you think? What's the consensus on the new queen?
I think it's I like it because it is something that has rush, and we know how strong rush is.
Right.
The minus 2,000 power is irrelevant.
Because unless you're playing King Leader, and then that's a minus 3,000 power. Let's go. Actually, no. You have to don -1 for that, so you won't be a 10 don.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get just that damn King Leader.
Damn King Leader.
No, I like it. But that being said, as a purple player, I had it at 1 because that just late game drop 6, swing for 5s, or swing for whatever Don you want to commit is great.
Right. I feel like it's the Queen's power 5K is where the problem is with that Queen.
Yes.
So like that's where its problem is, because like if you are in the late game trying to drive the queen and swing for a game, it's only at 5. Okay, you're really committing. Well, you can use one of the dons you paid for the queen to send it back, but
Well, where I was going with that is that for six, yes, because it has 5 power, but I think the play cost is trying to get value off of purple Kaido's effect, where you can -7 and trash a life. So you're playing him for 6, you minus trash a life, and then you go from there. That's if you have a wide enough board. Otherwise, if they're at 2 life, you just do the combo we talked about earlier, where you attach 7 and do that. That's where you see value. But that being said, as a purple player, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work because you have the 7-drop king, the 10-drop Kaido, the 9-drop Kaido, the 6-drop king. Like you have cards that get value off of popping something, and then they're 7K, 8K, 10K, 9K, whatever.
Right.
And like you said, the problem in that queen is that it's a 5K. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, just going back to value, it's play cost versus its power. Rush, well, like we said, Rush is really strong. That's one of the reasons why Red is really good. But Red has 3-drop 5K Zoro, where this is a 6-drop 5K, and it's like,
and its on play effect Don minus is not worth anything. It just isn't.
Yeah.
So and it's 2 effects on one. You have to minus the Don to minus power and to gain rush.
Yeah.
Versus, like you said, the 3-drop, you just have it. It's inherited.
Right. It's like the start at Kaido, the 9-drop. You do the -5 to give him rush and to pop one.
Right, and he's popping 6 or less at that point. Right. So, yeah, the queen is a cute idea. It's just not good.
So, are there any other like purple cards that came out in OP01 that
any
bunch of players? I know there's like the 2Ks, like the X Drake and the Sasaki that they're seeing play. Jack, I've seen some kind of like hand control things with like Jack and but like nothing too like crazy, honestly.
I think it's easier to say cards that people don't play. Like I think the whole Kurozumi family line, everything that's not Higurashi is the 2-drop 3K blocker. Right. You don't play that. You don't play the 6-drop queen. The 5-drop Kyoshiri from the Wano County, and then Basil Hawkins. Everything else can be argued to be played. That's like the 2-drop ulti that.
I'm sorry. Okay, I was actually gonna mention ulti. Like at the beginning of the format, I saw some players playing ulti. Like if they didn't open Onigashima, they're like, okay, this is like a decent, ramp early on. But like the problem with ulti is she doesn't have counter power, and like really, like if you can do one, let's say you're going, well, really it takes 3 Dawn for effect. So if you're going first in your second turn, you will get that extra Dawn. But like after that, any other ultis you have in hand, they're really just gonna be discard fodder for like queens and stuff. Because like you don't want to commit that much Dawn to just ramp 1. It's real, like I said, it's gonna be 3 Dawn to ramp 1.
Yeah, and she's another body, but she's a 3K body, so you have to commit that Dawn. And you'd rather, if you curve with her, you'd rather just play your king the next turn than commit Dawn to her.
Right.
So
another one is the Black Maria. I've seen some lists play it. She's a 4-cost 5K blocker, and she's got unblocked Dawn -1. This character gains +1000.
I think she's just more of an answer to like Shanks and stuff like that. That's really why she's played.
Yeah. And also like Thunder Bagaya. That's like another like big one that really came out in OP01 for purple. Every color's 2-cost +4K counter that gains additional effect. A lot of decks are really utilizing those. Red with the Red Hawk, green with the Punk Gibson, the Thunder Bagaya, the Overheat. I feel like they're all really, really strong within the current.
But like those, I think they're starting to see less and less play because they don't get value too often. They're great because they're +4K. The only one that gets the most value is Punk Gibson, where it's rest 4 or less. Everything else doesn't get the most value because Red Hawk gets 4,000 power or less, and you're against Zoro, they usually have 5,000 power or more.
Really, the best thing for, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but the best thing for the Red Hawk is to snipe like one of your opponent's blockers.
Right.
Like, that's the best thing for the Red Hawk. And like with a Thunder Bagaya, you have to have the 2 or less life to gain the additional effect for it.
That's what I was just about to say. And with the Thunderbird guy, you have to have two or less, and it's great because again, it's a 2 for 4. But most people are just running the 4 blast breath, and what I've been seeing a lot more instead of Thunderbird guy is a lot more offense. We talk about Babanuki. Babanuki is a 5 drop for 7 power, and he's got a 1K counter. Very very strong, and a lot more purple players are starting to run that because of, again, we talk about play cost and power, how important the two are. Like Zoro's 3 for 5. Well, this guy's 5 for 7.
Right.
So he sees a lot of value, and he's got the 1K counter. So I think instead of the defense, people are playing offense, and a lot of time in the decks, you just prefer that because whoever can get the less can get your opponent down to life in the swing game is it's really what it is. It's just a race to that.
So the last thing I wanted to touch upon out of the first set was two secret rares, both Shanks and Yamato.
Yes.
And how.
Well, real quick, I want to interrupt you because before we move on to that, one purple thing I want to mention is Orochi. I said nobody really plays the Kurozami family, but Orochi I think is very strong, and we're going to see a lot more play of him because he's a 2K counter, he's a 1 drop, and he gets to search your deck. So then you're allowed to see what you have in life.
Right.
And I've transitioned to him, and he's great. So just one last purple note I wanted to mention, but
in the future see some more of the artificial devil fruit smile stuff. Definitely be good because I don't know, because transitioning from Digimon into One Piece, because Digimon was very search top 3, 4, or 5, and eventually 6 cards from the deck for different like effects. Where like One Piece will have that, but they also have like Orochi right here where it says search your deck specifically for one. Or like there's the Sentamaru out of the Blue Star deck where you search your whole deck for a Pacifista and play it. It's like, okay, it's weird how they'll have some effects that let you just crack the top 5, where others let you be very specific, where it's like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon searching, where it's like traditional searching, going into your deck, finding what you need, versus just cracking look at the top 5 for and the off chance you do hit something of that specific type.
Right. I think Bandai has really learned from its past games, right? I think here we talk about searching, like in Pokemon, it's very
specific,
annoying, very specific, and it's very annoying because you can just everything almost searches, searches deck, and that becomes just boring and annoying. In Digimon, again, it's top 5, but it's everything is just searching top 5, and you would almost like that peek at the deck to see, and you're just cycling at that point and getting rid of cards, and it becomes obnoxious. Versus this, there's 2 cards out of every color that allows you to search. And so it adds that little bit of balance.
Like I said, it's very interesting how like it's a lot of it's traditional Bandai, and then there's like a little sprinkle of like, well, that's not right, that's different.
and what's nice about the 2 Orochi and Sentamaru is that they search for very specific cards that
you have to play toward.
Yeah, and in those colors, you just don't play them. So again, they're just more of a peek to the deck. Sentamaru, you play Pacifista. The Pacifista engine's interesting on its own, and it's
which is really wild because like going back to the Star Deck format, when green was being really, really popular, a lot of players were looking at blue to counter it, and the Sentamaru was a very strong card within the blue, just being able to float the Pacifistas from the deck every single turn. Where it's like now, we have even more Pacifistas, and now we also have the new Kuma. That's the blocker and on KO lets you float the Pacifista from the hand. And like we're just not seeing any play from it, which is very interesting. I don't know. I've been thinking about playing some blue Crocodile, throwing some Sentamaru's and like 40 Pacifistas in the deck.
and I think when we compare them to Digimon and other card games, I go to Digimon specifically, A, because this is Digibros, B, because we both have recently come from Digimon.
And C, Bandai game.
Yeah, C, it's a Bandai game, which it has Dragon Ball, Digimon, etc. I don't know if it has how much more it has, but anyways,
they got One Piece now. They got Battle Spirit Saga coming out later this year, and then that other one, Union Arena, that has like
chill Bandai, chill.
Like Bandai, listen. I know Dragon Ball Super was doing good, and then you really hit off with Digimon. They're like, oh, What's an anime? Come here, bring that ass here, boy. I'll make a card game out of you.
Yep, exactly. And Digimon was more of a sprint, and we've talked about earlier just kind of how it currently is. And One Piece is. I forgot kind of where I was going with that. Now I lost my thought. We were talking about.
We're just talking about all the Bandai games and stuff, and earlier on we are talking about like searching Sentamaru stuff like that.
Oh, in comparing it to Digimon, I think it One Piece seems a lot more balanced and is a lot more. It has an even amount of tempo, and a lot of these searching, it's very limited and very specific. Right. And I think when we get to the later sets, I think we'll see a lot more older cards, kind of similar to what Digimon is doing, where like we'll get new
supporting
sets,
older archetypes.
Yeah. Exactly, but you're bringing back older archetypes, and I think that's kind of what Bandai might be doing with these cards. It's like we see these,
they don't
like
do that future-proofing them. Yeah,
exactly. So we see them now; they don't do too much, but they future-proof them to where later they can see high value.
Right, like the Nami, like just on play search for a straw hat. We know straw hats are going to be throughout the card game. They're the main characters. We're gonna see it. Like it's
and Lord help us, we don't get a blue and red deck. So we'll see.
Ooh. Oh.
Lord help us.
All right, so moving on to the secret rares, like I mentioned earlier, we do have both the Shanks and the Yamato. Early on, I feel like more red players were playing Shanks, and a lot of green decks weren't playing Yamato. But now it's kind of flipped, where Shanks isn't seeing that much play, but I have seen a decent amount of green decks are playing Yamato now.
Yeah, I think in the red decks, Shanks just doesn't see value because he's a 9-drop, no counter, and you need a card that lets you just hit fast.
Right.
You don't ramp. So that's why we don't see it that much. But because
and also like that's the only thing you're doing that turn. Like going for I was playing him in Zoro where I would attach one Don to the Zoro and then just spend the 9 to drop the Shanks, and that's all I'm doing that turn.
And you can't ignore him because, I mean, you can ignore him in the sense like if you don't have your 1-cost blockers or your 1,000 power blockers, you're good, you're fine, whatever. But if you are the deck that runs those, he's annoying to deal with, and you can just and against blue. I played blue the other day with red, and I had the Shanks on the field. I just chose not to swing because they were going to answer him with like Doffy. Yeah, exactly. And I just rather see value on him later and chip away at their board. And so he's good, but compared to Yamato, like it's just not even a question.
And so like Yamato is like another one of those cards that like I mentioned earlier, where your opponent knows it's a good card. Yes. So if I'm playing red, they drop Yamato, I'm gonna hit it with a jet pistol every time.
Yes.
Every time. Like I'm not gonna risk it. I'm not gonna have them.
What did we call jet pistol? We call jet pistol queen.
It's a queen law, and now it's gonna be Yamato killer. It has one effect. It says if your opponent has queen, if it has law, if it has Yamato, kill it.
That's what jet pistol does.
That's what jet pistol does.
Yeah, and it's so annoying. And Yamato is. Let's talk about Yamato.
Right.
She's a 5-drop. She has, what is it, 5 or 6K?
She's got 5K.
She's 5K.
She has 1K counter.
1K counter, double banish?
Yeah, you just got double attack and banish, yeah.
Double attack and banish, and that is very strong. Here, now I got it pulled up. And let's talk about the art. That looks beautiful.
It's Yamato, like, come on.
It's Yamato.
It's Yamato, come on. But still, like you said,
the double attack banish has to be dealt with, period.
Has to be. Because I've said this plenty, especially in the Star Deck format, Rush was the best keyword in the game. And I still to this day believe that. Rush is just really, really strong with but playing in a format where everything has some sickness that can attack the turns played. Just Rush for game is really, really strong. That being said, double attack and banish, we don't see them like at all. There's like, I think 3 cards in the first set or within the first set, and the other cards we have that double attack. There's this Yamato, there's the Gecko Moria if you have 5 cards in hand, and there's the promo kid that's Donix 2 against double attack, which is security attack +1 for you Digimon players. But it is a really strong, just being able to deal 2 damage But having the banish on top of that, I believe once again that it's just the Yamato and the promo Kaido that have banish. I can't think of. Oh, and the blue
7-drop
crocodile.
crocodile.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the crocodile.
Yep.
Once again, that's only 3 cards that have banish. So these are really strong keywords, but we just don't see them that much. Banish is the card gets trash opposed to going to hand, so it's really dealing 2 damage, and your opponent's not adding those cards to your hand. Really, really strong.
Yes.
It's searchable off the Momonosuke in green.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, it does have a counter hand. Worst case scenario, you do have to waste on that. But if you are playing Yamato, once again, it's one of those cards where the opponent knows it's really good. Yep. So if you can get the effect off, you're definitely in a winning position. But it's like, am I going to commit the 5 Dawn for my opponent to immediately out it? Because that happens, I'm saying, like a solid 8 times out of 10. I was playing against my friend Oscar the other day, and he dropped 2 on 2 of these. Like, he played one, jet pistol, falling turn. He played another one. Then he messed up. He attacked later in the life. I let it go through, and it was a jet pistol kid off the Yamato. I was like, get that shit out of here. I ain't doing it. I ain't risking it.
Yep.
It's just very, very strong. And I definitely like moving forward into the second set, just to talk about that a bit. The Kinemon leader can also reduce the play cost of it.
It can the next. Oh, yes.
The next set, the Kinemon leader, the 3 or higher Wano country can be played for 1 less. So, fun fact, she'll be coming out on like turn 2 if you're playing. If you're going playing green, you're like, oh, fun.
And we talk about. Yeah, and we talk about future proofing. Like, next set is going to be very interesting. It's going to bring a lot of cards,
because we also get introduced to black within the next set, and we're also going to be getting the black shard deck as well.
Let's talking about red is best. We're going to get Newgate next set.
Bro, Whitebeard.
Whitebeard, baby.
I mentioned this earlier. Red's biggest problem is they have no cards in hand.
Yep.
Whitebeard says I get 2 draws a turn. I get top life, I get a draw card. I don't care if I have no life in my life area. If I'm winning, I don't care.
Yeah, and then you get and he's 6k base power, which is crazy.
Which is, they have to commit more to swing into him, and then I got to commit less to guarding against it from counters. It's
I'm playing it next set for sure.
Oh, and I'm gonna get that all art leader just to have the close up on the face to make the opponents uncomfortable, because he is very just in your face.
I'm trying to find the 9-drop Pirius because I want to read what he does.
The 9-drop Kaido? Or my not Kaido, but
no, Whitebeard. We're OP2 now. Come on.
We're OP2 now. He's on play up to one of your leaders gains plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Then you cannot add cards from your life area to your hand by your effects during this turn. Then he has when attacking Don X2, K up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power less. So he's got Robin's effect on swinging for 12k power. You won't add life to your hand, and it's also going to put your Whitebeard at a solid 8k base power that your opponent is going to try to attack over. But I've also been seeing in Japan a lot of the Zoro decks playing this guy as well. Make the Zoro 7k base power, your opponent has to commit more to attack over him, and then at that point you got a 10k swinger if you do his effect Don X2, so he's going to be a 12k swinging Robin.
Or you could just don 1 on Zoro, and now he's 11.
Right. So
yeah, I think we're gonna see, like, talking about the second set. This is one of the powerhouses.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's just gonna be very strong. And we look at 9-drop Kaido. Like, this is essentially the same value, 9 for 10. So it's going to be very strong.
But I didn't want to go too much into the second set on this episode. We'll touch more on that in the future. But just Whitebeard. Daddy.
Let's go.
Did you watch the video I did where it's the Key and Peele skit where?
Oh my god, I loved it.
God! At the end where he's like, "Bring it here," he's hugging Whitebeard. I'm like, oh.
Yep, it's so good. But we'll talk about set 2 soon to come. But I am very excited about it.
Yeah.
Very excited.
So that's really touching up on the first set. And something we did discuss a little bit amongst ourselves before we started earlier. How our local does our tournaments differently, where yours is best of 1, which I feel like most of them are, where both locals I-10 they do best of 3, and it's just how the format is completely different, best of 1 versus best of 3, and I just wanted to talk about that and because usually whenever me and you play, we'll do like a full match. We'll do a best of three.
Right.
So I don't really have the only best of one experience I have with the One Piece card game was the one Bondi tournament I played in, when it was just the star deck format, where it's the starter deck
Right.
deck limited battle,
Yeah.
and that was the only best of one I've ever played in One Piece. So I don't have a ton of experience in it where you do, and I just wonder, does that format drastically change what decks you play within it?
Yes. Yes, it does. One thing I want to say to touch base on your starter deck format.
Right.
Games were too long to be best of three. When we did the Super pre-release, all my locals were doing best of three, and it was rough. It was almost time, and we're still game one. So I get why we do best of one, but now that the games are starting to be familiar, everyone's used to it. They're a lot more quicker. We can get through game one, and we're barely even halfway through time. At my
Right.
locals now,
Like I
we're
said,
doing
like
best of
we're
one.
doing like our whole like best of three tournaments we do, like we're not even reaching time. Like there might be like one match going on that still has to like play into like the time rules.
Right.
But really that's it. Like, like players now, they're like know what they're doing. They're like don't gotta take forever to think on whether they want to counter if you're attacking their character versus leader or stuff
Right.
like that.
Well, and the tournaments are starting to do like best of one, and then top is best of three. I think if it's best of three, you're gonna see, and we do see a lot of Kaido players right now,
Right.
but best of three is just so much better for purple. It's
Right.
just so much better because you need to see Onigashima, and when you don't, it's an uphill battle, and if you lose, you're like, all right, cool, I can try game two, and now I have a better chance of getting Onigashima. Versus that uphill battle just feels so demoralizing, knowing that it's only best of one.
Right.
And so I think Kaido
I,
definitely sees a lot more play if it's
yeah,
best
and
of
I feel
two.
like Red's already really strong. Like I said, I play it at all my locals, but I feel like
Yeah.
Red in the best of one, it's like all right, I'm all gas, no brakes, and it's like trying to play against Red when it's a best of one. I feel like it's more of a uphill
Yeah.
battle than it is versus like a best of three. If it's like best of three, like okay, cool. They blitz me game one. Game two. I'm more prepared for it. Like I know
Right.
what to do now.
Yeah, and I think those are the two colors that benefit and suffer the most. I think Zoro definitely benefits because it like you said, you just gas no brakes, or if you don't see the card you need, you can do it again next two, and you do it twice in a row, and no one wants to get hit, that fast twice in a row.
Right.
So Zoro and Kaido both see benefits, but I think the other decks suffer because then your opponent gets used to what you're running.
Right.
Then you see, okay, they have three jet pistols, or they have they don't play the Sentamaru engine in Daffy or whatever.
Right.
You get used to it. So I understand why it's best of one. I think only a few decks, only a couple currently benefit off of best of, or excuse me, do not benefit off best of one, which is the Zoro and the Kaido I mentioned.
Right.
Do you think we're going to see a switch at any point
I'm not sure.
down the road? I should say.
Because in Japan and other Asian countries that play the Japanese version of the game, they're best of one. But also in Digimon, they were best of one, where we're best of three over here for Digimon.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So like that's like, it's like which one do we do? Because like I
Right.
feel like it's like that with like other card games where it's, even though we are going to be doing the same format like Japan did previously, that doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same. Like you said, Zora wasn't as popular in Japan for their set one as it is over here.
Right.
Stuff like that. I feel like it's, the playstyle of the players, Eastern versus Western, is different.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why we've preferred best of three versus best of one, where I don't know if it's like a cultural thing where we're, fine with doing a best 2 out of 3 to see who's better at it over a series of games versus, let's say, in, Japan and other countries, like it might be like I don't even know what I don't even know what I'm trying to say at this point.
Well,
Like I said, it might be like a cultural thing at that point.
Right, and I think saying cultural is very interesting to me because that's one thing I never thought about. Um, and I would love to kind of go over that at some point. I think down the road on my personal time I'll look into that because that's very interesting to me.
Right.
But I personally would like it best of three. But that being said, I would like I get why it's best of one, and I don't know. I think I'd rather to test it in multiple events versus commit to it
Right.
because there is a lot of players who, yeah, that they go through quick and they play it. But One Piece is so huge that I think there's a lot of people who just either A, haven't played card games in a long time, or B, never played a card game.
Right.
And there's a fair amount of people in my locals that just never played a card game. And so they take longer time going through their turns, thinking,
Right. And
guessing. You know what I
that's
mean?
one thing I was discussing earlier. How I've been playing for like 10 plus years, where my fiance, she's super
Yes.
new at them and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's like another guy at our closest locals we go to. He's been collecting, like he collected Pokemon cards for years and years. He never played. He just like collected the cards, and
Right.
he's a big One Piece fan. And so but he's also been trying to get into like playing it. And
Right.
so like that's like a new learning curve for him. Is like, okay, so a lot of times he'll like ask me like questions and stuff. I'm happy to answer them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like he's just hasn't, even though he's been exposed to like cards, like I say, he's been collecting a long time, he just hasn't been a player. And so like there's like things like I said with my fiance Kai, who's still uh learning. Same with him, and I feel like it's a good it's good for the community having both like experienced players and like people who are new to it.
And
Uh,
and, and I want to interrupt you because that's exactly where I think we stay at best of one because it is a good middle ground for both new and old players.
right.
So, yeah,
Like I said, so whenever I'm, because I plan on playing in some of these online regionals in the coming months, and it's just gonna be, I'm gonna say a learning curve for me because, like I said, both locals I attend for One Piece, best of three, and it's just gonna be hopping into that best of one. It's just gonna be uh, like I said, a learning difference because there's like a lot of times where I'm playing where like the first one or two hits, I'll like let them go through opposed to like guarding it, and I'll like guard
yeah.
future attacks.
It,
Where for a best of one, you have to be a bit more careful on what you
yeah,
go through.
and that's why like I talk about earlier, I talk about Orochi and like Sentamaru, right? Being able to best of one format, being able to search versus other decks not is huge.
Right.
Not, and I say search, I mean more of like look at the deck, right?
Yeah.
Because that's huge. Because in best of one format, I will say like playing our games, I can between me and you, best of three, it's great because I can be like, all right, a little bit more nonchalant on how many hits I take, what cards to see, etc. Versus
Right.
best of one, like in purple, if you don't see Onigishima, you only get one chance.
Right.
You don't
You only
get
get
best
one
of
chance.
three.
And
Yeah, you
like
only get
even
one
and
shot.
there are points within purple, like if you don't see Onigashima till like later game, you just can't spend the dawn
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, if we're late game and I get hit and my last life is Onigishima, I cry in a corner. Like it's the worst. It's the worst. But yeah, no, I really think the best of one, there's a reason it's there. I get it. It is a different style than best of three. And best of three is fun, but I think in this competitive scene we're gonna just stick to best of one. I like that they're doing in the bigger tournaments. They're doing best of one all the way. Top is best of three. Um,
Because I feel
I
like it
like it.
matters more in the top than it does in
Yes,
the Swiss rounds.
yeah, and it weeds out a lot of those.
Right. I know what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, you know
So
what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. All right. So other topics I had that we touched on like decent amount. Was like thoughts on One Piece comparison Digimon, also future decks we're looking forward to. We both like mentioned red and but are there any other decks in like set two that you're like I really want to like try this out. Don't gotta go with full detail, just like I think so and so looks cool or whatever.
Yeah, I think the I already said Newgate. I won't go too much into it. Newgate, and then I'm pulling her up because I dropping her name, Ivankov.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's one deck I'm very interested in, just because I like that character.
Right.
I think I really like that. Ivankov is going to be my that and Newgate is pretty much what I'm going to be playing.
Right, and I've been looking at Whitebeard and maybe not Smoker specifically over the Akainu leader from the starter, but
Yeah.
Blacks, I don't know. They got a bunch of really just interesting cards. That's the best way to put it. They got interesting cards.
Yeah.
And so I've been looking at Black a decent amount too.
One thing I just realized, and let me click this because maybe I'm tripping. Because I'm on. Okay, that's OP3. Never mind. Ace is a leader in OP3. Spoiler
Yeah,
alert. Ace is a leader in
We'll
OP3.
talk about that in a future episode because I have thoughts on that deck as well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, One Piece comparison to Digimon, like I said, something you mentioned earlier is you feel like One Piece is more balanced in Digimon, and that's a discussion I was having with a friend of mine who has played Digimon, and he was watching us play One Piece the other day, and I was just trying to explain to him that you can do more with memory in Digimon than you can with Dawn in One Piece,
Yeah,
and
I'd
then it
agree
goes
with that.
into like the balancing part of it. But I'm not trying to like hate on Digimon. Like I said, still love Digimon. Still,
Yeah.
I don't play it as much, but I've just been enjoying One Piece more. There is a lot more like card draw in One Piece. It's just not One Piece, but Digimon. It's built into the mechanics of like evolving a draw card.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, they're very similar games, but they're also like the devil's in the details. It's the small stuff that really separates the two.
Right, and I think when, earlier I kind of said this, and I'll elaborate now. A sprint versus a marathon, right?
Right.
I think in Digimon it went so quick trying to implement new
Keywords, new
mechanics.
mechanics.
Yes, it went quick doing that, and then by the time we get to where we are now in Digimon, we're like burnt out, and it's only what, a year and a half the game's old. And then One Piece, we've been what on the first set plus starter for almost a year now. If not a year, has it been a year? No. This last December, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah,
No.
so it's been a few months then. So it felt like a year. I'll tell you that. It's only been a few months.
Yeah. Well, got
Um,
the Super Pre release date back in September, so from September to now.
yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking because when those came out, I was playing harder than that. So we
Right.
both were.
Yeah.
We
We've
both
been
were.
playing a ton.
Yeah, and so where I was going with that is I think One Piece is on the right path. I think we're going to get, especially with yellow and black. We've seen that we've already starting to see where they're going with it, and I think they're slowly starting to roll it out, which is better. Versus Digimon started with all these colors, right?
Right.
Yellow is scary looking down the road, but we'll
Oof,
get there when we
that's
get there.
that. Yeah, that's topic for another time. But man,
Yeah, and,
all my
and, and
homies hate yellow. Like you said earlier, we got PTSD
yes,
from yellow and Digimon.
yes, and that's where I'll wrap up my thought is comparing it to Digimon. I really don't want us to get to that point and it just completely be deflating to play the game.
Right, and I
That
agree.
being said, I completely am breath of fresh air, refreshed playing the current One Piece format.
I
So
completely agree with you. And I think I was gonna go on and call it there. We're already about an hour and a half into it. But it's
yeah,
been a pleasure talking with you today on our first episode of discussing the One Piece card game.
yeah, this has been a blast. I'm glad we
Yeah,
were able to do it.
I look forward to future decks, future ideas I have for decks. You guys already know Red Best Deck, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know me from Digimon. I love playing oddball curve decks. So I think down the road when we start getting these more colors, it's going to be a lot of fun talking about potential cards and potential decks and
Right.
leaders, etc. So looking forward to it.
All right. That being said, we're gonna go on and call it. I appreciate you guys listening. Look forward to future episodes.
Bye bye.